My name is Greg Nilges. This video is in support of Sonoran Desert Institute's FTH 212 striker fired course and module, specifically module 4 assignment. Today's date is 22 June 2024. There will be no ammunition within the workspace throughout these videos, and there will be no functional firearm. Okay, here is my practice panel, and I've got a couple other designs there. I'll pick 3 of these. I'm not sure which, probably at least one with curvy lines just to practice on that, and the rest with straight lines. Okay, here's my practice panel with my 3 shapes. No, the middle one is not invisible. I've got my outlines on these 2 practice shapes, and on the back side, the third one with the borders cut and sanded. It doesn't look very good, but hopefully it meets the requirement when I get started stippling. Okay, here's my practice panel with the stippling completed. Disregard this one with the tape still on it. I was playing around with some different bits to use to outline the border, and that bit didn't work. On this one I experimented a little bit. I experimented on all of them, but I experimented a little bit with a tip. Tried to make a straight line pattern. That didn't work, so I turned that to a random pattern here. And this one up here is a bit of a radiating pattern. Okay, I have my practice grip borders all taped up and ready for the Dremel to outline the border. Okay, I've got the border laid in on one side, and it became more of a time challenge than I thought, so this is probably going to be a practice panel for future use. We're going to focus on this left side grip panel and the thumb rest area that I've got bordered in. About 99% of the old stippling has been sanded down, and you can see a faint outline of where the Glock logo was. This thumb rest area that I'm going to stipple became a challenge because it's concave and I couldn't get any Dremel tools in there. So everything was pretty much by hand, other than the ball mill that I was able to use the outline for. Okay, here's my practice Glock grip with the left side panel stippled. I experimented with a couple different tips, small and large, and there really wasn't a big difference. You can see the difference here on this outside line. I didn't end up doing this. I'm going to pick up some different bits and try some different stuff in the future. But I did go ahead and do the underside of the trigger guard. And it turned out okay, functional for sure. But overall, I guess I'm pleased with it. I learned a lot, and I think there's more to learn yet. Okay, just recap the process we used to do this project right out of the textbook, or right out of the lecture, I should say. First, we drew our pattern on the practice panel, and then we masked it off accordingly. Then we used a ball-end Dremel to cut the border, the outline of the border, and then we used sanding drum on the Dremel and sanding pieces of sandpaper to smooth it out. And then we used various bits to actually stipple the panels. And the same process was used on the grips as on the practice panel. Challenges. Concave surfaces and curved surfaces. So the concave surfaces, cutting, because they were concave, I couldn't get the Dremel drum in there. So the only Dremel tool I could use really was the outline with the ball end, and all beveling and stuff had to be done with sandpaper, which was a challenge because of the small workspace. Same thing on this. It wasn't concave so much as it was just curved surface, and it butted up against the front part of the grip itself. So there's some challenges associated with that. So curved lines and concave surfaces are a challenge. Moderating temperature and penetration of the tool is another challenge. And let's talk about useful tools while we're at it. With this in hand, obviously this is the SDI supplied tool, but this particular one, I have this offset attachment on here where you can offset your bits to a different angle. So instead of having to hold the tool like this, you can hold it like this, and that's very helpful. I think the SDI should include that. It's not an expensive part, and it's extremely helpful when you're doing the actual work with the hot iron. Pan of ice, I used it. I call it a pan of ice. I'm not sure what it is called a pan device by brand. I use this to hold the workpiece while I was doing it. You can hold it in varying directions so you can come at it at the right angle. Extremely useful. Optivisor or magnivisor, whatever you want to call it. I use this on a 3.5 magnification, and it helped greatly. A little more eye strain, but you just take more frequent breaks, but it allows you to be more precise. Tool holder for the hot iron. It comes with a real chintzy one. That thing is worthless in my opinion. This should be supplied because it prevents a possibility of this thing rolling off of that cheap tool holder, catch something on fire or burning somebody or anything like that. Inexpensive and a worthy addition. Flexible shaft Dremel. Obviously, the school provides the Win tool, which you can get the job done, but it's less than ideal because it's bulky. This flex shaft tool or one similar to it, they're much cheaper than the Dremel if you get a cheaper brand one, but it is more ergonomic and it allows you to get in there without holding a big bulky tool. Variable temp tool. Challenge in this was temperature and penetration, and I would like to see the course provide a similar tool but with a variable temperature adjustment on it. That would greatly reduce some frustration in over penetrating or too much heat or whatever. Same thing on back to the shaft. I laid this in my lap because it vibrated off the table, and when I moved, the shaft itself would still move. So if I didn't wait for it to stabilize before I engaged, it would throw me off. So you either have to wait or just kind of tuck it under your arm like that, just as a technique. And looking back on my project and what I could have done better, or what tips I may have. First of all, I say I enjoyed this more than I thought I would. I think it turned out pretty well. What I did on this pattern here was I used one of the bigger pointed tips to outline the overall line, and then on the inside of the pattern I used a smaller tip, and my intent was to leave a gap around it, a uniform gap, and there is a gap there, but it's not uniform. In hindsight, I should have outlined that in painter's tape or something, or drawn a line to give myself something to guide off of for that first set of lines of the small tip, and it would have looked much more professional. But overall, I think it turned out well. I'm here to learn, and learn I did. Okay, got my video all uploaded and realized I didn't cite a reference, although I mentioned a reference in the video, I did not cite it. So my reference for this video is the SDI FTH 212 Module 4 lecture.